Everyone, and welcome back to the Everyone's a Critic podcast with your girl Queenie and your boy Kojo, where we unpack TV shows and movies because we feel like it. Kojo, what are you saying? What are you telling me? What's up?
Really, it's been a while. It's been a while since I've been in this chair. It's been a while since I've seen you on this side of the screen.
Yeah, man.
But I'm excited for the TV show that we're talking about today, which I mean is evident by the title and the thumbnail. I'm sure it's not really a secret.
Yeah, it's not really a thing.
Not really a secret, but no, I'm good. I'm good. I'm glad to be back. How you doing?
Yeah, man, I'm good. Glad to be back on the airwaves. Talking about the things that we love, the things that we love to watch, and also the things that the community loves to watch.
Mm-hmm.
And we're coming back with a bang. We're back with a bang, right?
Biggest show out right now.
Honestly, just like the Game of Thrones franchise itself came back with a bang. Yeah. We're talking about House of the Dragons today. Come on. Let me get out.
Like a dragon. Speaking of come back with a bang in the vein of Game of Thrones, I'm just gonna say like now I'm glad they kept the theme song. I'm glad they kept the theme song. That is too iconic. It's too
100%.
iconic to let go. So
100%. Shout out to, I forgot his name. I remember I saw it on Wikipedia today. I forgot his name. But shout out to you, my friend. Whoever you are out there, you're just collecting coins, and I love that for you. Keep going.
Yeah, keep going. But yeah, so I mean, we're unpacking House of the Dragon. We're gonna do a whole season recap discussion. So the final just came out yesterday. Actually, the finals came out not even a full day ago. So as opposed to kind of doing episodic breakdowns, we're gonna talk about the whole season from start to end. What's up, Queenie?
I was just gonna say, sorry, I don't want to cut you off, but you said it came out not even a day ago, but it did leak. It did leak.
I don't know about that.
It did leak. Now,
yeah, it did.
We're not going to incriminate anybody here.
No, we would never do that.
We would
right?
never do that. We would never do that because we're all amazing people here. All by the book people here. So that's fine. But the episode did leak. And I'm just gonna leave that there.
It did. Some of us had access to it before others. But who knows? Who knows?
Who knows?
Anyway, in terms of format, so the way we're going to approach this, we'll talk about the story and the characters as a whole. We're not going to get into book spoilers because neither of us have read the book anyways, and very much enjoying just the TV show as is. So please keep any book spoilers out of the comments. Don't ruin the experience for other fans. But we are going to talk about, again, the characters as a whole, the flow of the season, the narrative of the season, and where we see it heading for future seasons, given that it's been greenlit for at least 4 seasons. As far as George R.R. Martin is concerned, he said it needs at least 4 seasons to flesh things out. So I'm excited. I'm excited to have Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon around for a few more years. So I'll do a quick recap of the story, and Queenie, feel free to jump in as and when. Sure. But I mean, as I'm trying to think through, when we say the story, where to begin, it's tough. There's as with any ensemble show, there's layers upon layers upon layers and intersecting characters, and things spiral to where they spiral to.
And they all have the same name. Like,
we'll get into it. We'll get into Aegon 1, 2, 3.
Like there's Rhaenyra. Anyway. I'm even saying names wrong. Rhaenyra, Rhaenys. Come on, let's
Viserion, Daenerys. Anyway,
I don't know any of their names, so just I'm letting you know now. I'll be saying thing 1, thing 2, and you'll just have to understand what I'm saying. Okay. Then you're going to try and tell me to learn dragon names. Come on, get out of here. No.
One step at a time. But what I decided, I think, in terms of how I'll approach this, is maybe I'll start from the beginning. I'll start with like a major theme and then see where it goes from there. I think the overarching theme of this season and probably the whole show, to some degree, is looking at the women kings, like the women who are never crowned. And the struggles about being a woman in this world, and in a very patriarchal world, and being told you can't be queen or king. I'm going to use those terms interchangeably, so forgive me, but you can't lead because of your gender. So anyway, the show begins with, you know, Rhaenys and Viserys. Viserys is, you know, the current king, who's now passed, but is current king. And Rhaenys is his cousin. And essentially Rhaenys, you know, there's a succession battle between Rhaenys, who's the direct descendant of Jaehaerys, the outgoing king. And Viserys, who is his nephew. And in the end, instead of going down the direct line of succession from Jaehaerys to his daughter Rhaenys, it goes to Viserys. So Rhaenys becomes a queen who never was. That leads us to the modern day. Viserys has been, you know, ruling Westeros for years. He's known as Viserys the Peaceful. You know, he's not into wars. He's a good dude, actually. On that note, so let's pause here for a second.
Let's talk about it.
Let's pause here for a second. I am surprised. I am pleasantly surprised to have a good quote unquote king in this world, and I enjoyed it because this whole time I'm like, it starts off firstly with him allowing or encouraging, giving the go-ahead for his wife to essentially die in childbirth.
That was a bit wild.
So I'm like, oh, you're not a good dude. And actually, to be honest, using terms like moral, like good and bad, probably it's Game of Thrones. Everyone's kind of all over the place and, you know, self-interested. So good and bad probably doesn't apply. But then it's all relative. At the end of the day, I'm like, I compare him to Joffrey, to Rob Baratheon, to Daenerys, to the other kings we've seen in this world, to the Mad King, and I'm like, oh, you know, you weren't so bad.
You weren't so bad. If we were gonna rank you, you wouldn't be at the bottom.
No, you clearly love your daughter. You know, you're not into you do everything you can to prevent war. Like, he didn't want to go to war in the Stepstones. He didn't want to permit Daemon and Corlys Velaryon to go and war the crab people. The crab people, weird. Anyway, the crabs. Like he really just wanted to maintain peace in the realm, and I kind of appreciate him for that, because you see, the moment he does die, all hell breaks loose instantly. The fabric, the glue. You see how he was the glue holding everything. He was the glue holding the realm together. The moment he's gone, that's it. And
just to go off that as well, like, shout out to him, man. Like, there was a point in the show where I was like, okay, are you gonna die or not? Like, are you gonna die or not? Hurry up.
Speed this along.
Hurry up.
Listen, from episode one, they showcase he's sick. They showcase he's not recovering from minor ailments. He's not, you know, his blood isn't coagulating, so he's kind of just bleeding. They're adding maggots and everything else. I'm like, oh, you're gonna die real soon. Sir, episode 8, you're still kicking around.
Episodes.
You're still shout out to Paddy Constantine, because wow, that performance across those 8 episodes, phenomenal. Salute.
I was there trying to figure out, like, how much editing had to go into this, like how much of it was makeup and how much of it was like just pure editing, like, because he was looking scrawny as hell
in episode 8
in a bad way. Episode 8.
Yeah. He was not in a good state. But shout out to him for that performance. And Viserys as a king, I thought was really, really, surprisingly solid, and clearly loved his daughter Rhaenyra, who essentially is, for like, our protagonist. I mean, it's Game of Thrones, House of Dragons, so there's always, you know, there's multiple protagonists depending on your perspective. But she's primarily the main character that, you know, we see the show through. Her eyes. She is promised to succeed Viserys upon his death. And the realm, or Viserys has told this many, many times throughout his reign, the realm will not stand for this. But everyone kind of bites their tongue. They're like, you know what? We've told Viserys, he doesn't want to listen. It is what it is. The moment he dies, we'll do what we want. So
and even while he was alive, they were still planning. Like,
that's what. Exactly. They knew. They, like, the moment he dies, we have our plans in place. It doesn't matter.
Crazy.
So, I mean, and we'll get into that. But Rhaenyra, I really, really liked. So the way this show kind of rolls in terms of the time jumps and time skips, I really like both the actors who played Rhaenyra. I thought they did a phenomenal job. And seeing how this character evolves through time and feeling that sense of closeness towards like, you know, that character just because of like watching you grow. I heard some people say the opposite. Like a lot of fans went into the time jump aspect, and I think even for me it's a bit jarring at times. I'm like, oh, we're here, we're here.
No, serious. I think the first time jump wasn't jarring because I was expecting it, like because I knew it was coming. But then when in one episode she has one baby, then in the next episode she has 5 fully grown children, it's just me confused. Like I was like, oh, okay, this is what we're doing. Cool. But I mean, you catch up and they make it easy enough to like understand. You know what I'm saying? Like they understand that like not everyone has read the books and stuff. So you know they tried their best with the time jumps, and I understand why it was important to show like where Rhaenyra was coming from in terms of her childhood and where like obviously they had to show like Alicent and Rhaenyra as friends. Like that's integral to the story. So I mean I didn't hate the time jumps. Like I was taken aback in maybe 2 episodes, but it was calm after that.
Same. I mean, so you mentioned a character which let's flesh out because I have one note on this character I'll circle back to. Alicent Hightower. So Alicent is Rhaenyra's friend. It's implied that they're more than friends as well. And so, but essentially they're close. They're close is the premise. So it makes it all the more bitter when, you know, as teens, particularly when Alicent marries Viserys, which begins the rift between them. And then, you know, down the line when Alicent has Aegon and which is Viserys' firstborn son. And then there's tension now because Alicent is obviously Aegon's mom. Alicent wants to protect her son, but is very well aware due to her father, Otto Hightower, is also like a power-driven figure in this world.
And it's the King's Hand at this point.
It's King's Hand who counsels her and tells her, look, if Rhaenyra takes the crown, your son will be the first to go because he represents a challenge to the crown. And to be honest, we as like people who know Rhaenyra, I don't think that would ever be the case. However, I do think Otto is smart. Otto doesn't know Rhaenyra like that, so he's from his perspective, he's 100% right. Like he doesn't know, and from what he sees of Rhaenyra, this child who's kind of just does whatever she wants, doesn't care for no rules, like is really just a self-interested figure. Like he's not wrong from that perspective. We know he's wrong because he's a shitty character, but he's not wrong from that perspective. Alicent started an OnlyFans account? Question mark? Question mark? Because Alicent be selling the access to the feats for one Leonard Strong. Man,
I did have, sorry, before you go on, I did have one point about like Alicent and Rhaenyra and like in terms of their juxtaposition. And that being that Alicent, like you said, Rhaenyra, like you said, is like very much, I do what I want on my own time. Thank you very much. Whereas Alicent is very much by the book. Clearly like raised in 2 very different ways. And their understandings of the world completely different to one another, which is why like when they were kids, their friendship was so like beautiful because like they were seeing 2 different things. They were looking at the same thing but seeing 2 different things, and then when they are older it's the same situation. Like they're seeing power but they're witnessing it from like 2 very different perspectives essentially. And so man, poor Alicent, like I feel bad for her because in her mind she's like, I've done everything right, like I've done things by the book, why am I still carrying last? Do you know what I mean? Like whereas Rhaenyra just does whatever she wants. It's giving Hamilton and Burr, right? It's giving, I can't think of another comparison, but it's essentially like, you know, in Hamilton, it's a similar thing where Hamilton just does what he wants, and Aaron Burr is like, no, but I'm doing everything I should be doing, and I'm still not getting anywhere. Like, what's up with that? So, I like it.
On regarding these 2 and their dynamic, I already posed the OnlyFans question, which I'll come back to.
Yeah,
Kristen Cole. What is up with Kristen Cole? Kristen Cole, the Kingsguard who, had relations with Rhaenyra.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Relations with Rhaenyra.
And then went over to Alicent.
He was Rhaenyra's first, and then baited himself out to Alicent when she didn't know what she was. It was one of those. I think whenever I see this trope in most shows, it always bugs me. It's cliche, but I actually enjoyed it in Game of Thrones, also House of the Dragon, where you'd have a person who's guilty of something, and then someone is discussing a different issue, and then they blurt out what they incriminate themselves unnecessarily. Yeah. And it's you see it going there, you're like, please just shut your mouth. Just don't say a word. But he didn't do that. And then he ends up becoming a dog for Alicent. It seems like they have something else going on between them, because she does make a reference to his feelings for her. So which is why he had to, act on her behalf. But bro, stop killing people. Just stop. Man. Stop.
Like, I don't know what happened to him, because he was so promising the first maybe 3 episodes.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened. Like, Rhaenyra took your virginity and suddenly you're evil.
He just moving mad hurt. Well, I don't know.
To be fair though, if you've made a pledge, right? You've made a pledge. There's an episode of Rami that is relevant here, but whatever. You made a pledge to protect your king and country, You're the queen's not aide, sorry, that's bad. Knight.
Okay.
You're knight of the whatever he is. You sworn your life. You said, I will not take a wife. I will not have land. I will not. So many things that you promised that you said you won't do, including having sex. And then suddenly you do it. You would feel robbed and bitter. You would.
At who? Yourself, though.
At yourself. Sorry, let me say that, at yourself. Which is why he then would behave in the way that he does. I'm not justifying it, but I'm just saying, I can understand why he would run himself mad.
It's given petulance, because he killed I was gonna say Valerion. He killed Rhaenyra's husband's concubine. What's in the actual wedding? No, actually, it wasn't in the actual wedding. Hold on. Valerion. So there's a Valerion, Leonard Valerion, Laenor Valerion. Laenor Valerion. He killed Laenor Valerion's partner when Laenor Valerian's partner tried to blackmail him. They didn't try to blackmail him, just insinuate he's like, hey, we're in the same situation together. Yeah, you got your thing with Rhaenyra. I got my thing with Laenor.
We're seeing eye to eye.
But then obviously he took it in one way and just killed him. Just killed him at the party. And then at the council, the Green Council, when they were meeting to find out, Viserys has died, what should we do with Aegon? And then you had Mr. Man, who looks like Filch from Harry Potter. Intimacy movies. Anyway, and smashes his head into the table as well. And he has this look on his face like, oh, why would that happen? You, sir.
Oh, you did that
again. Anyway, can we talk about Daemon for a sec?
We can. You know why? Because I love that man. Let me tell you why. Firstly, if he's a psychopath, I'm gonna love him. Okay, so we're gonna start there. Daemon never and when I say psychopath, I mean when a character is so 100% unapologetically them, I'm gonna need you to inject it immediately. We knew from the start who this man was. He's tapped. He's power hungry.
Yep.
He wants to be king. Okay, that's his driving force. He's lusty. Is that a word? He's filled with lust. Lustful. Wow. Somebody give me a dictionary now.
Lusty.
Wow.
He's called Lusty.
Let me not embarrass myself in airwaves. Right. Anyway, so he's the 7 bad things that you shouldn't be. All of them. That's what he is. What is that thing? 7 deadly sins. There we go.
Mm-hmm.
Encompassed. How many letters is his name? It's 6, so that doesn't work. Anyway,
you tried. I see where you're going with this stuff.
Yeah, I really tried, but it didn't work. Anyway.
But Damon sounds like demon. So
thank you. This is why I like you. Right. So we know who he is. And then there was a point there in the middle, so they're at the battle, and he's just fighting.
Stepstones.
Ooh, I said, wow, by yourself. Come on, King. I love it. Inject it. And then but then he starts to be really weird with Rhaenyra when she's like literally a child, and you're like, I mean, bar the fact that he's her uncle, we'll bar that. We'll ignore that. She's still a child. And he's like low-key grooming her. It's not even low-key, it's very high-key grooming her. It was giving weird, but again, it's exactly who he is. So we're accepting it. And then there's a point where he's just like seemingly in full support of Rhaenyra, right? So, at this point, he's like, no, the crown should be with our family. Like, Rhaenyra is the rightful queen. And then, in the final episode, we see people like pledging their allegiance to the queen, to Rhaenyra. And he's like, I'm your prince, la la la, all of this stuff. I love to see it. Then suddenly, our Daemon comes back. A bad Daemon. And essentially what happens is Rhaenyra is like, oh, but I want to live out, he wants to fight, because at this point, the Green family, Alicent's son,
the Hightowers.
The Hightowers have now become, what's his name? Aegon. Look at me knowing names. Aegon is now king. Obviously, Daemon and them are mad because it should be them. Daemon's like, let's fight. Rhaenyra's like, no, we shouldn't fight. It's the Song of Ice and Fire. Like, just like Daddy said. Daddy said, we should be united against the one, like all of the, what are they called? Constituents.
White Walkers.
Yeah, all of the kingdoms should come together to fight the White Walkers, because that's the real enemy, right? And she's like, that's what Daddy said. That's what's important. And suddenly Daemon's like, what you're not going to do is try and use folklore here, right? He gets very upset because I think he kind of realizes that, his brother was actually never, ever, 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 ever going to let him be king by telling Rhaenyra the prophecy that he had, right? Anyway, sorry, I'm digressing a lot here. I say all this to say that then Daemon takes her neck and literally strangles her. And I said, I don't know where Daemon's going to be next season. I'm not sure. Because that's a lot for me. Anyway.
Is it a lot for this world, though?
It's not a lot for this world, but I feel like his death is coming soon. I'm not going to lie.
I don't feel like he's going to die soon. And we'll get into why, but I think basically agree with almost everything you said. Like, give me a psychopathic character, with like no eyebrows. Sure, like let's go.
No eyebrows.
I'm with it. I think Daemon early on. I thought Daemon was going to be the villain. I was like, oh, he wants the throne. It's going to be like Rhaenyra versus Daemon for like who gets the throne at the end of it. And then when Viserys was dying, and I think Viserys has this line towards Daemon where he's like, it was never about the throne. Or was it I think someone insinuates, or did I take this from somewhere else? But like, it was never about the throne for Daemon. I don't think, not fully about the throne. I think what he wanted more than anything else was his brother's approval. He was never going to go against his brother to like take the throne from his brother. That was not in the cards for him.
He would have been done that. To be fair, he's mad enough to do that.
He said from all along, like looking at the way he was behaving and his actions, even in the Stepstones when Viserys offered to send him aid and help, and he's like, "No, I'll do it myself." I think he always just wanted to be by his brother's side. His brother never made him hand of the king. And he says that. He's like, you made a flipping Otto Hightower your hand. Why don't you make me your hand? I'm your brother.
Yeah.
Like I'm your only brother. So I think a lot of their relationship has just been about him wanting Viserys' approval. So when Viserys passes and he's looking for who to blame, is obviously going to the Greens. Alicent, the first thing he says is they poisoned him. Even though he saw the state that Viserys was in, the first thing he says is he was poisoned. Let's go kill them. And it's sad. And I think that's a lot of where the aggression towards Rhaenyra came from, where she's like, I don't want to be the queen of the ashes. Shout out to, that's a callback to Daenerys' line as well. Oh, I'm not the queen of the ashes, and then obviously
burns everything
down.
Yeah.
But I think when Rhaenyra is trying to counsel peace, he's like, no, revenge is what I need. So I want to see where that goes. I think the reason I don't think Daemon's going to die right now is because he has to fight Aemond. They look too similar. Daemon has to fight Aemon. Their names are too similar, and Aemon looks at Daemon with this reverence. When Daemon killed Lord Corlys's brother in front of Viserys, chopped his head off because he was saying a lot. He was saying a lot of things that didn't need to be said. He was trifling. So when Daemon carved his head, if you see that, just look at Aemon's face when this happened. Aemon is like,
every time they look at each other, it gives me chills. I'm not gonna lie.
I can't wait for that fight.
There's a weird, and don't correct me because I don't want to be corrected. There's a weird sexual tension there. Okay, I've said it now. All the
Targaryens are hooking up with other Targaryens. It's very much in their wheelhouse. So who knows?
I understand your logic in terms of why you don't think Daemon will die, but why not? Do you know what I mean? As in, if you're saying that there can only be one person who looks in this frame, and one person with this particular name, why won't it be Daemon? Why would it be Aemon? I feel like it'd be more reckless if it was Aemon, because Aemon, that boy he has more issues than Daemon to me.
So let's get into that, because that's actually the last line I had on these story beats is in a nutshell, fuck them kids.
All of the descendants are just tapped.
But Aemon is beginning with Aemon, because I think no matter what, he will have to receive his comeuppance. Aemon is the person who essentially began what is called the Dance of the Dragons. So obviously all this tension was here. Rhaenyra didn't want to go to war. It was possible Rhaenyra was really gonna accept Alicent's demands. Saying, it's fine. We're gonna keep Dragonstone. We're gonna keep the Drift. We're gonna keep. You're not gonna call into the legitimacy of my children's birth and everything else. It's fine. But with the death of Lucerys, I think he's actually called, but with the death of Luke by Aemond, that kicks off everything. And I think Aemond will have to face the music at some point for that. Whether that's delivered by Daemon or not is kind of irrelevant. I think the swift hand of justice will find his neck at some point.
That's true.
And we see with the way Daemon's storyline ends in season 1, he goes into the dragon pit, I guess, and he finds what is actually the dragon's name is Beremoth, or
it's a wild dragon, isn't it?
It's the second biggest dragon in the world right now. So obviously Vhagar is ridden by Aemond, but the second biggest one, which is very close to Vhagar's size, is this one that Vermithor, once ridden by King Jaehaerys the First.
Okay.
It's a big ass dragon, as you can see when Daemon went to go and greet it. So I think recruiting that dragon to their side, and they have more dragons. They have 13 dragons compared to 3 on the green side. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that pans out. But anyway, fuck them kids, because they're the reason everything kicked off. Both our favorite episodes, episode 8, particularly, which I like. I mean, even before episode 8, when they fight as kids, it's because Aemond, takes Vhagar or bonds with Vhagar, which is dragon that belonged to the mother of Rayla and Baela, I think, Daemon's ex-wife.
Daemon's ex-wife, yeah.
So and then all hell breaks loose. Luke cuts out Aemon's eye, and Aemon holds on to that. I love the interaction when Aemon saw him at Storm's End and was like, I'm not gonna kill you, but I will take your eye. Like, it's time. Like, the chickens are coming to roost. You're not leaving here without giving me the eye.
Yeah.
That whole time I'm like, yee.
No, serious.
You're not making it out. You're dead.
It does make you think as well, like, you know, when Alicent in episode I don't remember the episode now. Was it episode 6 maybe? Or episode 5? When Alicent gives
I think that's even episode 7. I feel like that happens the episode before, maybe, or episode 6. So, yeah.
So when Alicent, basically Alicent is rife because obviously her child has just lost his eye. So Alicent is like, an eye for an eye, innit? Like, let me take your eyes, like, let me take the eye of the son that hurt my son. Like, it makes you wonder now, like, if they'd actually gone through with it, that boy would still be alive today. That boy would still be alive today. Maybe there will be no war, you know, but obviously we can't think like that.
Maybe. I mean, I feel like it was always gonna pop up at some point. Just Aemon, and there's the way it happened as well. Like Luke was there. Like, I'm not a fighter. I'm here. I'm a messenger. I'm not a warrior. I'm a messenger. He just wanted to get, and the whole time he's like, I just want to give a message and leave. And then Vhagar was like, not Vhagar, Aemon's like, no. But the thing is, as well, just to add, I think it was important, Aemon didn't want to kill Luke. Aemon wasn't trying to kill Luke.
Yeah.
He didn't. They're all children. Aemon was fucking about, for lack of a better way to phrase it, like, and not understanding that these beasts, these dragons, they can't be fully controlled.
Yeah, like, they are primal. Like, you know, you can't just go blowing fire in my eye and think I'm not gonna do something, bruv. Sorry. If I'm a dragon, yeah.
Was that in the script? Is that what Vhagar? Is that what Vhagar said line for line? Because I'm sure that was in the script.
It was written down. That's how it was written. Yeah. You think you're gonna blow fire in my eye? And you think you're not gonna catch these hands? Try again. Try again. Try now when you're split in half.
Literally that. Literally.
Crazy.
And even on the other side, I think with Luke, like, I don't think Luke ordered Arax to attack Vhagar. Like, he's trying to escape, but again, the dragons are behaving how they want to behave because they're moving off instinct. They're trying to protect themselves. Yeah, man. And it's just kind of sad to see. Sad. I mean, he's a character, but it felt sad to see how it happened. You're like, Luke, escape, and then obviously he can't escape. And then Aemon's face at the end says all really, where he realizes this is it. Yeah. This is it. There's no coming back from this.
Yeah. So crazy. And then also, just like, this might be one of the final points of this now, but like, in terms of fuck them kids, like, the writers really said fuck them, because how is our good sis Rhaenyra losing 2 children in one episode? Let's talk about it. I
saw a video saying how this episode was all about loss, because it starts off with Rhaenyra losing her father, losing the crown, losing obviously her 2 children. There's so much loss in here for Rhaenyra. Is like, how much can she really take?
Serious. Yeah. Like, this like, no wonder she would then be like, yeah, we're fighting, like, it's on site, because you can only take so much before you break. Like, it's crazy. Sis is pulling out this baby from her fanny and then talking about, that's another thing, actually. I will just say this one thing. As a person with a vagina, there's no way on God's green earth you're giving birth to a dead baby and then riding a dragon shortly after. I'm so sorry. They tell you to sit tight for 6 weeks. You did not wait 6 weeks. You were in pain. I didn't appreciate that, personally, because that's false advertising. You can't do anything.
But we saw Rhaenyra do like a similarly wild feat when she gave birth to, maybe it was Luke at the time, and then got a message from Alicent, you know, the Queen demands to see you, and then just walking, still bleeding, I'm sure like afterbirth and everything else like she's dealing with, still okay, let's go. Like I'm going to march. Let's go.
Like life goes on. Crazy dog. I couldn't believe it. I said, you mean you've spread your legs to climb this dragon after shortly giving birth 2 hours ago? Okay, obviously you don't know the time frame, but that was just something that I noticed as a woman. I was like, girl, I know you're in pain right now. I know you are.
The last fuck them kids I wanted to mention, actually, just before we move on to your production stats, potentially is Aegon. We didn't even mention Aegon. Aegon II at this point.
Now,
the king. So we've had the queen who never was. We've had like the Black Queen in terms of Rhaenyra. The king, Viserys the Peaceful, and then you have the king. The king. I don't know what you call Aegon. The king who didn't want it. The king who didn't want to be king.
That Aegon. The way I had to really think, like, who's Aegon?
Yeah, Aegon II. You know, we don't have to spend too long on him, but I do think his storyline is going to become a lot more integral to this. So, I mean, he's the king, obviously, so storyline is where the plot is now coalescing around. Yeah. But I think his decisions to be, well, a rapist, sorry, for lack of a better word, and how he behaved around Fleabottom, and having all these children, these bastard children, I think that's going to come back around. Because that gets introduced in towards the end of the season, where like, oh yeah, he has a lot of children around, like bastard children, which means there are a lot of potential dragon riders hanging about.
Yeah, man. Yeah, so. I read somewhere that there's like 20 dragons or something. It's like that dance of dragons or whatever. That's gonna be crazy, dog.
Yeah.
Like, and which will lead me nicely onto why like this franchise of this TV show is so expensive.
Take it away.
If you've got 20 dragons that you're trying to CGI and digitize and whatever it is they do in them computers in there, that's expensive. That's expensive. And obviously this season, this spin-off show has way more dragons in it already in season 1 than it did in pretty much the whole of season in the whole of the Game of Thrones the original show. So would you like to know how much it costs to produce season 1?
I would.
Season 1 of House of the Dragon cost a whopping $200 million. That's $20 million per ep.
It's astounding.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. And just for reference, season 1 of Game of Thrones cost roughly like $6 million, and then their 8th season, the worst season, cost roughly $50 million. So more than the last episode of more than the last season of Game of Thrones.
Wait, so you're saying it costs 20 million per ep? Sorry, 200 million for the whole season of House of the Dragon.
Yeah.
And the final season of Game of Thrones was 50 million per ep, or per
ep, sorry, per ep.
But yeah, so even then, like the budget's increased, like still quite significantly, which I find interesting given how Game of Thrones ended. And the position it now has it in the zeitgeist, that they're still like, they know it's a bankable property regardless, and they're right, they're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Wow,
it's crazy. And then you think about shows like what's that new one that came out on Amazon Prime? The
Jungle?
Lord of the Rings one.
Oh God, Lord of the Rings. We'll come back to Lord of the Rings. So we do have this in the industry news section. So we'll come back to Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, we'll come back to that. But shows are really like spending, as in like, TV networks and like streaming services and stuff are really spending money, like big bills. But they're getting the rewards, because at the end of the day, like HBO have now greenlit, like you said, well, definitely season 2, but George R.R. Martin is saying that there should be at least 4 seasons. And they confirmed that there was going to be season 2 straight after the first episode aired, because of how well the premiere was.
Yeah.
It was like HBO's like biggest premiere to date, which is bonkers. So yeah. It took 11 months to film. and to do. Most of it was in the UK, some of it was in California, some of it was in Spain. But what I do like about Game of Thrones is that like it is like, while it's a HBO show, it is still very British. Like when I was looking at like who was working on the show, etc., like I'll click on an editor and they're like, oh, British editor, and I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Like I like that America isn't getting all of the credit for the show, essentially, is what I'm saying. Yeah, and then the showrunners. So I didn't realize that Miguel Sapochnik. Sure. So he was the director of the most critically acclaimed episode of Game of Thrones ever, the Battle of the Bastards, that episode in season 6. So he was originally a showrunner on House of the Dragons. But he's not going to be the showrunner moving forward. I'm not sure why, and I need to know why, because I'm not sure if it's like beef. But like having 2 showrunners anyway, like
I mean, it's not uncommon.
It's not uncommon, but I can imagine, like, you know, and just in case you don't know what showrunner is, sorry, it's just like essentially like the executive producer, in charge of like all of the creative decisions, essentially. So, you know, there's a lot to consider, and I imagine if you have 2 like powerhouse people trying to make decisions, but maybe I'm just creating beef where there isn't none.
Yeah, I wouldn't, because I mean we've seen it with, I mean, the whole of Game of Thrones obviously ran by D&D. Yeah. And even Insecure, which obviously we spoke about Insecure as a show. 2 showrunners, Issa Rae and Prentice Penny.
Yeah, Penny. Yeah.
So it's a common. Look at you stirring like, is there beef happening
here?
I'm
just curious. I'm curious. No, because Prentice and Issa lasted 5 seasons. Yeah. Y'all lasted 1. But anyway, that's by the by. But anyway, shout out to Ryan Condal anyway, who is now the showrunner of like solely the showrunner of House of the Dragons, which, you know, judging from the first season, I'm excited to see where we're going with this. Ryan, we believe in you. Please don't give us a rubbish ending like we got in Game of Thrones. That would just be really disappointing.
Because the book has actually ended, I'm confident that, you know, you can't mess it up in terms of the ending. The ending's already been decided. I think D&D, the showrunners of Game of Thrones, went off the rails when, you know, the TV show ran ahead of the books and they had to then write the plot. Because they clearly didn't know what they were doing, and there was other stuff in there about them just wanting to wrap up the show so they could move on to Star Wars, which I don't think they even have anymore. I think that got taken away. So I'm confident. I'm cautiously confident that, you know, we'll get a really, really good show completely out of this.
Yeah. And it's hope. I think all of this is also hopeful to the other spin-offs that they have in the making. I was meant to send you a link. There's loads. There's loads. There's so many. Like, and for me personally, this would be my first, outside of like the Disney Cinematic Universe. This would be like my first like real like fandom show, I guess, in the sense of like so for example, I wasn't a massive Lord of the Rings fan. I've seen the first film and I said, that's nice. And that's all I've seen. Whereas like, you know, some people have seen The Hobbit, they've seen this new prequel show, blah, 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 etc. Same with Harry Potter. Like, it took me so long to complete that franchise. So this is the first franchise that I'm actually invested in, and I really enjoy, and I'm loving, and I'm excited to see what else they're bringing out. But I am overwhelmed already by how much they're trying to make. But I guess I just need to. I'm also convinced that I need to read the books as well. So I'll probably get into that and update you guys. But Kojo, what was your favorite episode?
Has to be episode 8. The episode where Viserys actually dies at the end of it is where I thought it was the perfect episode to kind of encapsulate the season, because it has the chaos, it has the infighting, but it also has like this like wonderful moment, which was forced towards the end, where Viserys demands that they come together. They're a family. They can't move forward when they're all at each other's throats, and then you begin to see the cracks beginning to mend between Alicent and Rhaenyra, and they say things which are quite earnest, and then kids fuck it up. Kids fuck it up, and that's it.
Who was it that was coming talking about Mr. Steal Your Girl? Which one was it? Like, basically, one of these keys.
Both of them, because Aegon was talking to Jaehaerys. I can't remember his name. Jace. Is talking to Jace about, because Jace hadn't had like slept with a woman at this point, so he's like, oh, if you want a real man, come to me. It was his whole MO to Jace's betrothed, and then Jace went and took his wife, which is also his sister, and then was dancing with her, and it was crazy. And Aemond also feels a way about the sister, because Aemond looked at Aegon like, yo, you're gonna just allow him to
and then the parents they're just looking, just observing. These men are all doing Mr. Steal Your Girl chase songs. Oh, to your daughters. God have mercy.
It was a really, really good episode. And the way it ended, obviously, with the like sort of the monologue from Viserys. Have you seen the meme of like Walter White from Breaking Bad in the truck where he's yelling? I'll send it to you after this, but it's basically like when Viserys is giving the speech to who he perceives to be Rhaenyra, because he's saying like Aegon, the prince was promised, everything else, which turns out to be Jon Snow, that he thinks he's talking to Rhaenyra, he's obviously talking to Alicent. And then the meme is like, well, all right, and the car go, no, Viserys, that's not Rhaenyra, no, and he's like yelling through like the truck window. Is so stupid. But it's one of those moments where you're like, again, I said this earlier, cliche as hell, the whole like misinterpreted message, and then she's gonna run with it. But what you said is rings very true for Alicent, that she's a duty-bound person. Alicent, I don't think would have put Aegon on the throne without hearing this message, and she took it because he says Aegon. He's like Aegon, not knowing, or maybe, I don't know if Alicent really knew this or didn't know this, but like Rhaenyra has named her other son Aegon as well.
Yeah.
So
even that's, I mean, you know what? I'm blaming them, man. I'm blaming Rhaenyra.
Better names. Need better names.
Like, we need more names.
Well, to Kofi, or like adding a Kweku, or adding even like a James. I don't know. It's just something other than one of four names that you have that you're rotating.
Like, we'll take a Kojo, we'll take a Queenie. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's be serious people here, and just stop naming cousins the same name, please. I'm confused. Please.
Confused. Anyway, carry on. Sorry, Queenie. You get episode 8.
No, that's okay. Episode 8 was also my favorite episode. And so I did my due diligence and I googled who directed it, and it was directed by a woman called Geeta Vasant Patel. And then I was like, okay, who are you? Never heard of you. And when I was doing my Googles, I was on IMDb, obviously. And I saw that her credits include The Mindy Project, Dead to Me, Atypical, Superstore. And these are all shows I love. Okay. These are shows that are a bit of me. And I was trying to figure out like how she got from like shows that are so very comedy focused, not so much like not at all in the genre of what we're talking about here in terms of Game of Thrones and House of Dragon and stuff. And I was trying to figure out like how she did it. Do you know what I mean? But then I realized actually episode 8 was probably the perfect episode to direct for her, because what this show and the other shows that she's directed before have in common is the fact that like they are very much relational shows, like in a sense of it's how people are interacting with each other, and like, very, very script heavy shows, I guess, which, can't be said for the episode that Miguel directed, for example, in season 6, where it's just bare man in a field fighting in the Battle of the Bastards. Do you know what I mean? So Gita girl, you did a great job. I love
honestly.
that episode. And shout out to the writer as well. I've forgotten who the writer is. I'm so sorry, but maybe if you're listening. But yeah, shout out to you, man, because fantastic episode for me. Definitely was the peak for me. And I think I remember seeing a graph actually on like Wikipedia, and it was like so it was kind of steady, like episode 1, 2, 3, peaked in season 4, then was steady, peaked in episode 8, and then kind of dropped to episode 9, and then went up a bit episode 10. And I feel like that definitely encapsulates like how I felt about the season. But it doesn't make me any less excited for season 2.
Yeah, honestly, I'm super excited. But that being said, we're probably not going to get season 2 for another 2 years. It's not going to come out till 2024 is what I'm hearing. I think they're filming next year.
Not planning to start production till next year.
You would like this little tidbit I heard actually from Alison's actor. I was listening to a podcast yesterday. I'll try and get the podcast up. But essentially, what I learned is that they had 3 units filming simultaneously throughout the show.
No.
3 units. And for anyone who's not aware, I mean, Queenie, do you want to explain what a unit is?
I mean, sure. If I can, I don't really know if I can.
Yeah, because I don't even know where to begin. I
don't know where to begin.
I guess as a team, it's best maybe just best look at it like a team of people filming. So, what the perception I had of the show was that they'd spend you have like a runtime like production time of 7 months or whatever it is, 8 months, 11 months. And I thought they were filming episode 1 to 3 with these because you have different casts with the kids. Then you have with these lot, then you have with these lot. No, they were filming all of those episodes simultaneously.
Yeah.
So you have a unit focusing on this cast of these episodes. You have a unit focused on these episodes. You have a unit focused on these episodes. Is my understanding.
And that took 11 months as well to do 3 simultaneously. Like that is crazy.
Olivia Cook is the actor who plays Alison, and she spoke about how she was looking at the call sheet for where what kind of location she was shooting on, because she heard about Spain, all these places. All her shots, all her scenes were in Watford, apparently. Watford, I guess Watford and Cornwall, and like I think they spent a lot of time in Cornwall. I think most of us filmed in Cornwall. She was like, she wasn't pleased. Wasn't over the moon at that. But anyway, we'll leave it.
But was the show worth it for me in terms of like the $200 million that they spent? Hell yeah, man.
Sure. I mean, it's not my money. I put $1 billion into it. I don't know.
Was it worth it? Absolutely. And like, I feel like the payoff, the payoff for me is gonna be great. I think like I'm excited to see them dragons dance, boy. I'm excited for that. So
anyway,
shout out to you, man.
But yeah, pivoting then. Let's whistle through some industry news. So there's been a ton of developments, film and TV. So Queen and I got some headlines we're going to go through before drawing this to a close. I guess starting off with a film that's come out recently, Black Adam. I haven't seen it. Queenie hasn't seen it. Both kind of middling on seeing it. But you know who isn't middling? You know who's over the moon right now? Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
Yeah, man.
This is Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's. I don't want to keep saying his name. Like, this is The Rock's biggest opening film ever. I think they've now made 140 million. This is being reported on by Deadline. 140 million in international box office sales. 73 million from international box office. 67 from domestic. So yeah, this is The Rock's biggest overseas and US opening for a film. And The Rock's been around for a minute. I mean, obviously he's been in Jumanji, Fast and Furious. Then there's like
Tooth Fairy.
There you go. Yeah, Tooth Fairy. So a very, very bankable actor who has made a lot of bank with his film. Also was going super hard on promo. So it worked out for him. I guess.
I saw him with Munya. That was like a funny little video that I saw, and I really enjoyed that. But yeah, shout out to The Rock, man. I feel like for a film that I literally saw the advert, I haven't even seen the advert for it, to be fair. I've seen it advertised a lot, like on like buses and like, you know, billboards or whatever. And every time I go past, I'm just kind of like, yeah, okay. Do you know what I mean? So, and in my mind, I thought everyone thought like that, but obviously, like, that's just me being Queenie, right? And so you telling me that like this is how much he's making and how it's like his biggest international feat, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Like, I'm stunned, shocked. Yeah, and I'm kind of like, maybe I should watch it. And I mean, I have an Odeon card now, so I might as well. But yeah, we'll see. If I do watch it, you'll be the first to know.
Yeah, same. I mean, I feel like I'll watch it reluctantly. I'm not rushing to the cinema to see it, but I haven't been to the cinema in a while, actually, so I'm kind of itching to do so. I think the last film I saw was maybe 2 weeks ago. I saw The Woman King, which was great, but now I'm like, yeah, maybe I'll go and see this. Anyway, next story.
The Decision to Leave, I just thought I'd get there now.
Pardon?
So, sorry, that was really unclear. The last film I watched was Decision to Leave. I watched it on Thursday last week.
Ooh. Okay, so yeah, in the cinema.
In the cinema. Nice. Same director. It was the director who did The Handmaiden and Old Boy.
Okay, yeah, say no more. I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued. Next story we have here is about Ezra Miller. He uses they them pronouns. Now this Ezra Miller is tough to talk about at this point because they are always in the news or have always been in the news as of recent, like over the last year at least, for the wildest stories and headlines. But what I kind of want to focus on, at least in terms of what this headline focuses on, is that Ezra's pled not guilty to burglary. So recently was charged with felony burglary, which carries a maximum of 25 years in prison. Ezra, who's 30 years old, is accused of going into the neighbor's home without permission while they were out and stealing bottles of alcohol. So they have pled not guilty. I think if found guilty, face up 25 years. Queenie, what I want to ask you is, what do you think should happen or will happen to the Flash movie? So the Flash movie has been finished. Ezra is the Flash. This movie also has Michael Keaton playing a heavy role in it. This is Michael Keaton's return as the Bat. In it, there is. Hold on.
Really? Oh, what a wreck!
This has Ben Affleck obviously in there as well. Michael Shannon is in there playing General Zod.
So basically, all I'm hearing is, there's a lot of people here who need to be redeemed, in some way. There's a lot of people here who are using this film as part of their redemption story.
Who are you talking about?
Ben Affleck. He's still on the rocks. I'm sorry. Sorry. Ben Affleck is still on the rocks.
In terms of playing Batman.
In terms of playing Batman, in terms of his personal life, like there's just a lot that's been going on with him. Well, Michael Keaton, obviously, I mean, that one's a little bit different, but like
Keaton's fine.
Yeah, Keaton's fine. Ezra needs an intervention.
There's a lot of complex things going on with Ezra Miller in terms of mental health and everything else, which I don't know. I obviously can't speculate on, so I'm just going to leave that one alone. But I want to know what they can do with the film. Like, what can they do with the film?
At this point, you're just gonna have to sit on it. You're gonna have to sit on it and hope that he doesn't get found guilty. That they don't get found guilty. And if they don't get found guilty, then they need to lock them up themselves in the DC jail.
Yeah.
For at least a year. for at least a year.
Give it some time.
Do you know what I mean? Let things simmer, and then we go again.
I think that has been DC's approach, because this film has been in the works for a long time, as in since 2019. Wait, the project actually began in 2014.
Crazy.
And
then obviously COVID, and so they've been waiting for a long time to release this film. And obviously, yeah, like you said, they're going through some stuff and all of this stuff. So I get it, but it's also like people have already been paid. Like the money has been spent.
I don't know if they have been paid though. That's the thing. I don't know what happens with that. I mean, usually, go on.
So in my mind, it's like they pay, and then the returns is what they use to bolster back up. Essentially, in my mind, it's like a loan. Like,
they
pay people, they loan them out, and then when the film comes out and they get their returns back, then they can figure out where it goes and whatever. That's how it works in my mind anyway. I don't actually know how it works, believe it or not, but I should probably Google that.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, Mike, it's probably a contract thing. I'd imagine you might find cases where people, it's in a contract, pay up front, but then a lot of contracts. I'd imagine maybe the standard is, you'd recoup the money from box office sales, but it really depends on the actor. But yeah, I don't know what you could. I basically everything you said. I think you have to sit on it. I don't think you can release. You definitely can't release the film without, attracting all the attention surrounding Ezra, which also, may or may not be a good thing.
Also, though, I feel like, especially because Black Adam is doing so well, and that's another DC bop, isn't it? So I feel like it's probably for the best, because, like, DC's been going downhill for some time. So, and since it's such an anticipated film, well, I didn't know about it till today, but since it's such an anticipated film, let's let DC work on some stuff. Like, do you know what I mean? Let's get the infrastructure right, and then so when the film is released, then they can say like, "Cool, we did it. Do diligence."
Yeah. Cracking on and trying to maybe speed through these. Ant-Man and the Wasp, just a trailer dropped. Quantumania, which Ant-Man 2 sits at the very bottom of my MCU film ratings. I despise that film so much. It was not fun. It's not interesting. But this one actually looks quite good. Surprisingly.
Confession, I've never seen Ant-Man 2.
That's fine.
You know how people are like, oh my gosh, yeah, every single Marvel film. Oh my God,
Is that the only one you haven't seen, or is there a couple others in there?
That's the only one I haven't seen, and intentionally. Yeah, because in my mind, it's like I couldn't figure out what I needed to know from that film for the rest of Infinity War to make sense. Do you know what I mean?
It actually will have some bearing on this film because it introduces the idea of the quantum realm, but it just mentioned. I mean, I'm envious of you because you haven't seen it, but then I'm also not envious because you now might have to watch it just to connect the dots with this one, and I don't have to do that.
Well, I'll use it as an excuse to go back through and watch all of the films in chronological order because I've actually never done that.
Good time.
I do.
But this film has stars Jonathan Majors. I'm saying John Majors like we're boys. Yeah, John Majors. Jonathan Majors.
One day, you better speak that into existence.
True. Again, I've been singing his praises since Last Black Man in San Francisco. I've seen that film so many times. Phenomenal film. So glad to see him getting his just desserts. So he stars. He plays Kang, who's the big bad of this, and now due to be the big bad of this, next phase that MCU is heading in. And playing all these different types of characters. For anyone who's seen, I mean, let me not say the particular Marvel show just in case you haven't seen it, but he does play a villain in a Marvel show, and you see how that villain is gonna enter into the fray of other stuff. But he's also Jonathan Majors playing the main fighter in Creed 3.
Yeah,
so
the main opponent.
Booked and busy. His agent phone is blinging.
Sin. Like,
so I'm happy
I would just
for him.
like to use this moment to say, Jonathan, if you're listening,
to this lowly podcast.
Jonathan, if you're listening, when I watched your GQ interview on YouTube, which you can obviously watch, if
is this the 10 things he can't live without?
This is the 10 things he can't live without, and I fell in love with you when I finished watching that, and I would just like to say, courage.
Not you.
You know what I mean?
Not you shooting your shot on the spot.
On the airwaves. I have to because
on the airwaves. Nah, I respect it.
You have to. It is what it is.
It is what it is.
And when you know what you want, you gotta go after it.
Amen.
You know what I
mean? Last 2 bits of news here. Boiling Point TV series starring Stephen Graham confirmed for BBC. So this has been reported on by Empire Online. Basically says that Boiling Point, which is a really, really good film, I'd highly recommend people watch it if you want a good hour or so, or just anxiety mainlined into you.
Uncut gems, but in a kitchen.
Uncut gems in the kitchen. So I thought about Uncut gems in the kitchen. And for anybody who's seen The Bear, it's very reminiscent of The Bear episode 7 in the kitchen. The Bear is in the kitchen, but as a feature film. But yeah, so they've this has been greenlit to be a TV show with the same creative team who produced the film. So excited to see what this becomes. Lovely. The series will be comprised of 5 hour-long episodes, and filming is set to start early 2023. So keep an eye out for that.
I am really happy for them for that, because Boiling Point was a fantastic film.
Yep, agreed.
Like technically and also just like story-wise as well, it was really good.
Yeah.
But I was saying to Kojo before, like, do we need 2 kitchen shows?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. The Bear is an obvious yes, and I'll take more. Sure, I know. Why not?
Sure. Just don't. I just don't want the Bear to be worried. You know what I mean? And no shaking, please, because that show has my whole being right now.
Yeah. The Bear. Last bit of news here then is this will be 25 most expensive TV shows of all time. So we actually alluded to this earlier on. Queen, you mentioned the show actually ranks as number 1, but I won't start with number 1. I'll start with number 5 and then make my way down. And I mean, it's all dominated by the same studio, Disney Plus, funneling money, everywhere they can. Number 5, so the most expensive shows on the most expensive show of all time list. This has been reported on by Cleveland.com. The WandaVision budget per episode 25 million. Falcon and the Winter Soldier, same 25 million. Hawkeye, same 25
Falcon and
million.
the Winter Soldier. So I still haven't seen that, by the way, but I've heard it's crap.
It ranks as the worst of a lot of people's lists. Not the worst of my list. Or maybe it's at the worst. Maybe it's at the bottom of my list. But they're all kind of mid to me. They're all mid to me. So it's like,
Goodness gracious me. That must be like COVID costs, because that's a little COVID tax.
25 million per episode, yeah. So anyway, so you have Hawkeye, Falcon, WandaVision all coming in at the same. Then you have Stranger Things, budget per episode 30 million. Make it. I wonder if that's probably for the most recent season. And then the most expensive show of all time, Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power, budget per episode 58.1 million. The most expensive TV show of all time has a budget of just under 1 billion for its first 5 seasons. They've greenlit 5 seasons before the show was even out, and it boggles the mind. Firstly, I'm always happy to see Amazon lose money. I can't lie. It fills me with glee. No, I never want to see anybody lose their jobs. I'm glad people have like really gainful employment. But if Amazon are throwing money down the drain,
oh, you mean Amazon in general? Fine.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, because I actually quite like Prime. I'm not gonna lie.
Sure. But it's convenience, but the company.
In terms of like, we are, you know, anti-capitalist, even though I've got Nike trainers in my bag. But anyway, you know what I'm saying? Eat the rich, etc. Yes, we love it. You spend that half a billion pounds, and it goes.
No, it's just under $1 billion for the first 5 seasons. It's I don't know how they break this down. I guess $1 billion per season. So $1 billion per season. I'm gonna work this out now. I don't care. It's a lot of money. 250 million.
It's like 450 for the first season, isn't it? 450 million.
I guess that probably is 450 million. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money.
But I was speaking to my friend about the season today, because he's like a big Lord of the Rings. I don't know if he's a big Lord of the Rings fan, but he's a Lord of the Rings fan nonetheless. And he said it was like eating baby food. Now, I don't know what that means really, but like, if someone describes a show to me as eating baby food, I'm not inclined to watch it.
No, I saw part of the first episode. I like Lord of the Rings as a world. I'm not massively into the lore, but I have spent like an increasing amount of time, even before the TV show drops, just on YouTube, just like learning about characters outside of the films and whatnot. But I couldn't get through the first episode. It's not like it's poorly made. Clearly, it looks very expensive. But just something about it is just not hitting. And it's hard to pinpoint why. I mean, I'll try and get through the season, but then I've heard a lot of people say exactly the same thing. Where it's just not, it hasn't been well reviewed. I think if you bear with me, I'm gonna quickly check the IMDb, maybe Rotten Tomatoes score. 6.9 out of 10 on IMDb. Reasonably well reviewed on Rotten Tomatoes. Oh, okay, so get this. 85% average tomato meter. So that's the critics. Gave it an 85%.
Yeah.
The audience score, however, 39%. So
now critics that is a discrepancy.
Critics are lauding it, but the audience is not.
Critics are loving it because they're getting paid to.
So
because Jeff Bezos is everywhere.
Yeah. I mean, but then I know this also, that being said, I know there might be a couple of reasons for why this has happened. Like I said, people just not enjoying the show, which, is to be expected. There was also a huge wave of people who were review bombing the show because it had like black characters in there. So Lenny Henry, who plays a very prominent like Hobbit figure, be like, oh, why black people are in Middle Earth and what, like, it's that sort of wokeism is killing our TV shows, and it's like, shut up. Yeah. It's one of those things. So yeah, it's hard to unpack. What I'm trying to say is there's probably a multitude of reasons why this score could be where it is in terms of the audience review, but I do know a lot of people also just aren't enjoying the show, and I'm hoping to finish it, but I can't guarantee that.
How many episodes is it? 10?
One season, 8 episodes.
8 episodes. Yeah, I'm not doing that. That's too many. That's like 3 too many.
Yeah.
Outrageous.
Anyway, but yeah, that's it for the news roundup elements here. Yeah, it's been busy.
Yeah, man, it's been crazy. We're so happy to be back. So happy to be back on the airwaves, on the podcast. And yeah, stay tuned, guys. Stick around. We've got some cool content lined up for you over the next couple of months. What's that? Sure, we'll go with that. We'll run with that.
Yeah. Follow our social platforms. So we're on Instagram mainly, but also TikTok as well. EAC _ pod. No, that's a lie. That's a lie. It's a Critic's pod. But if you type in EAC, or everyone's a critic, will come up. But it's the Critic's pod. Follow us on YouTube as well. Because we're hoping to put out some more great content. So thanks for listening.
Thank you all. And Coach, speak soon, innit? Peace.